Hey guys, it's me, MidwayJack24 here, and today I'm going to be reacting to Napoleonic Wars by OverSimplified Part 1. If anyone who would like to barge into my room again and literally yell out random stuff to me, please feel free to do so. Sorry, I've been bugged twice, actually 3 times while trying to record this video. And each time I keep getting to literally about, well, the first time I got about here, second time I got here, third time, got about here, fourth time, here, fifth time, here. Yeah, so you can imagine that I'm kind of angry since I just spent, like, literally the past few hours trying to do this. And yet, it took forever since my internet's now going a tiny bit slower than usual. But anyways, so while I was trying to react to it at least 5 times or 3 times, at this point I don't remember, but it was a lot of times. Times I kept on getting interrupted, and literally now I have to restart the whole entire recording, which I'm annoyingly angry at. So yeah. So, all the copyright belongs to OverSimplified, and I'm going to be skipping his advertisements, and if any ads come throughout the video, just know that all the ad revenue is going to him, and quite honestly, there will be an original link to the video down below, and yes, I did watch both of these videos, because, quite honestly, I was watching this one for literally making the blind reaction video, which unfortunately got spoiled by my roommate, so yeah. And then yeah, I decided to watch this one because I actually wanted to know what happened to Napoleon. Anyways, so yeah, so I got bored, watched that, just to make sure that I bought enough time for myself, so that way my roommates wouldn't keep barging into my room. Anyways, so yeah, after learning that part, and not really in between, let's figure it out. Alright, all copyright belongs to OverSimplified. Original link to the video, description. Anyway, skipping advertisements, going into full mode, going past his thing, right about here.
Okay, Mrs. Bonaparte, this is it. One last push, and we're done.
Congrats, it's a boy.
Congratulations, it's a general. Oh?
Wait, a general? Wait, why did I start hearing the French national anthem?
And here comes the rest of the army now.
Wait, what? Uh-oh. Poor Miss Bonaparte.
Did you just say the rest of the army?
And yes, that is some part of the English lyrics to the French national anthem. And quite honestly, I'm sorry oversimplified, as I stated 5 or 3 times before, that national anthem is the current French national anthem. And unfortunately, it wasn't the one used during the Napoleonic Wars. I believe Voiture de Departure was the one used. I could be entirely mispronouncing the name of the actual national anthem used during Napoleon's reign, but I know it wasn't Martial or the current French national anthem, as I can't speak French or even learn how to read it properly or pronounce it without getting confused. It's a work in progress for me, but anyways, let's continue.
History is full of great conquerors, many with very impressive origin stories. For example, Alexander the Great was the son of a king. Julius Caesar came from an aristocratic family that descended from a goddess.
I'm pretty sure that anyone who descends from a goddess or god are definitely full of themselves. Or are just trying to scam people. I mean, let's think about it. And last I checked, goddesses and gods, I believe, don't actually exist. And quite honestly, let's keep on going.
Conquerors don't usually come from relatively insignificant families living on impoverished islands. But as it just so happens, that is where our story begins. In the early 18th century, the island of Corsica was a part of the Republic of Genoa, until one day Corsica said, "Hey, we're declaring independence, and it's probably not worth your time to try and stop us." So Genoa said, "You're right, it isn't worth their time. Hey France, you want to buy this island?" And France said, "Sure thing." And thus, Corsica became France, just in time for Napoleon to be born French. Many Corsicans didn't appreciate their new conquerors, however, and from an early age, Napoleon developed some fairly anti-French sentiments. Napoleon's dad, however, quickly embraced his new French overlords, which created some tension between dad and son. "Ooh, look at me. I'm dad. I wear powdered wigs and silver-buckled shoes, and I'm a traitor to the Corsican people. Go to your room, Napoleon. No, you go to your room, Dad." Okay.
Wait, hold on. Was he reading French for Dummies? I just saw that. Where can I buy that book, though? Because I don't speak French. I want to learn it, though.
On the other hand, Napoleon adored his mother, who was definitely the disciplinarian of the family, and even though she would punish Napoleon severely, he kind of respected that.
Well, I guess we found out that almost every evil dictator in Europe has at least had one parent abuse the hell out of him. For Napoleon, his mom. For Hitler, his father. For Stalin, his father. So yeah, I can see where the line's going.
Napoleon's parents wanted the best for their family, and since they were a very minor nobility, they were able to have Napoleon sent off to the shining lights and rat-infested sewage puddles of the big city. Napoleon went to military school in France. "Okay, Napoleon, why don't you introduce yourself to your new classmates?" "Well, I'm Napoleon, and I hate all of you. Your farts smell like cheese, you can't pronounce the letter R, all you do is go on strike, and you call eggs oofs like a bunch of big dumb idiot dingleberries."
I can't tell if that's an insult to modern French or the French back then. I'm sorry if anyone who got confused by what I just said or might have gotten offended by what I said, but let's be fair. Let's be fair. They kind of did go on a lot of strikes back then, and also they do go on some strikes now. Let's face it, France, you need to work a few things out. Anyways, continue on.
Okay. Thanks, Napoleon. I hope you like being bullied. And bullied he was. They picked on him for his Corsican accent, his family's lack of wealth, and it probably didn't help that he also had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. But he could hold his own, and on an average day, might be found dishing out ratatouille sandwiches for breakfast. He spent much of his time alone, and he loved reading about the great conquerors of history. He learned about Julius Caesar, and he wondered if one day he too might have a pizza franchise named after him.
Oh no. Little Napoleons? I'm sorry, but that's just gonna be too hard to handle.
He excelled at math and geography, and when he graduated at the age of 16, he was made second lieutenant in an artillery regiment. Now, second lieutenant might sound pretty sweet to a screw-up like you, but
Why do you have to make me sound as if I'm that bad of a person? Wow, I ain't that much of a screw up. Wow, I'm just sad now.
Napoleon had a little something called ambition. Stonks of it. And he wasn't content being just some junior officer. He wanted to rise the ranks. Unfortunately for him, that would be a little difficult. "Well, Napoleon, I've reviewed your application. It's clear you're very skilled and would be a perfect fit for the promotion. And Simeon, you're just about the biggest idiot I've ever seen. Your test results suggest you have the mental aptitude of a senile earthworm, and in the part of the form where you list your experience, you seem to have drawn a picture of a gerbil giving birth to a shoe. But your dad is the Marquis de la Fayette, so..."
Can someone please explain to me what this is? I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it since I know that I'm just going to be yelled at in the comments anyways, so can someone please tell me what that is? If it's a high-ranking French person, just let me know.
You get the job. French society was just too closed off. Positions were handed out based on nobility, not talent, and the
French society, you've wasted a good portion of talent. Well, I mean, Napoleon sort of fixed that for you, but you guys did go for a few more revolutions.
Napoleon probably felt stuck. Wouldn't it be nice if, say, a revolution came along and changed all of that? Well, what are the chances? The French Revolution is here. Bastille toppling, head chopping, king popping. The revolution promised to do away with the old social hierarchy and make everyone a little more equal. Napoleon may not have cared much for the violent mobs, but if it meant he could rise the ranks, he began fighting to defend the revolution. He put down a British-sponsored counter-revolution in Toulon and got promoted. He put down a royalist uprising in Paris and got promoted. And as his military prowess became more recognized, he was even given his very own army. It was astonishing progress for such a young man of humble origins, and Napoleon's wildest dreams were coming true.
Wait, hold on. Why do I feel like if I've seen this expression before? So, like, why do I feel like if I've seen that before? I just can't place my finger on where I've seen it, though. I feel like I have.
But Napoleon also believed he could increase his social status if he married an older rich lady. And so around this time, Napoleon went on the prowl. However, if some sources are to be believed, he was a
Wait, let me just read this. Napoleon was so ugly. An overall sickly effect was created by his thinness and yellow complexion. Mari? Parmon? Can someone tell me if I pronounced that name correctly? Anyways, so yeah. Let me see. So I'm taking that Napoleon had troubles.
creep. He reportedly had terrible luck with women, and most wanted nothing to do with him. Fortunately, he eventually met Josephine, an aging single mother who was deeply in debt and needed stability, so she agreed to marry him despite finding him intensely disgusting. Napoleon, you dirty dog, you've done it. Unbeknownst to Napoleon, however, Josephine had a bit of a promiscuous reputation.
Uh-oh. Well, I mean, it depends on how bad of a reputation is her promiscuous reputation. Ooh. If I was in France at the time, let me know she was single.
Napoleon, I hear you're marrying Josephine. Boy, she sure is a great kisser. That's right. Hey, wait, what do you mean she's a great kisser? Hey, Hugo, you hear Napoleon's marrying Josephine? Wow, she sure is a great kisser. Now, hang on just a minute. Hey, everyone, Napoleon's marrying Josephine. Oh, yeah, she sure is a great kisser. Real good at kissing. Oh, wow, I'm pretty sure I kissed her. Oh, for goodness sake, is there anyone here who hasn't kissed my wife? Yeah, you.
Why did that take me back to high school?
As Napoleon fell madly in love with his new wife, she fell madly in love with a man named Hippolyte. It wouldn't be long, however, before Napoleon would leave home and go to war, because while France was having its revolution, tensions in Europe were rising. Hey, Austria, you'll never guess what we just did. What's that, France? I got 2 words for you. Revolution. We totally just socked it to our monarchy. What? Dude, the rest of us are monarchies. You've just totally threatened the balance of power in Europe. Now we have to worry about our stinky peasants rising up against us. I mean, holy hell, your queen is... Okay, France, this is pretty awkward. And the rest of Europe is probably itching to give you a wedgie. But you're not ready for a war yet. So you gotta be cool, man. It's absolutely crucial that you say something to defuse the situation right now. Preposterous! I declare war. Sacre bleu!
Well, welcome to what I used to do whenever I was in school. By accident, I would accidentally start up huge amounts of arguments, and sometimes, mainly large amounts of arguments. And people got extremely annoyed with me that I just kept on accidentally prolonging the arguments to a far long point where I still need to work on getting rid of that habit.
France ended up at war with basically the rest of Europe, and the War of the First Coalition began. At first, France struggled, but then they started to do... And in many conquered territories, they began to establish sister republics, exporting their revolutionary ideas across Europe. In 1796, they planned a 3-pronged attack to take Vienna and knock Austria out of the war, with 2 magnificent armies in the north to kick ass, and Napoleon in the south as a bit of a diversion. For the first time, Napoleon would lead a military campaign. This was his chance to prove himself, to be somebody. And what a general he proved to be. The army he was given were demoralized, lacking equipment, and underpaid. But
Oi, Twinkies aren't that bad. Henry, look, he's taking out Twinkies and saying Twinkies are bad. To be fair, they're absolutely delicious. But still, having them over and over again, yeah, I can see why they're kind of bad. But to be fair, you're at least still getting a little bit of energy from them.
Napoleon galvanized them with inspirational speeches, and he took them into Italy. He was outnumbered, and his campaign was partially meant to be a sideshow, but he made it the main show. While the two northern armies were being held back, Napoleon made staggering progress. In a signature Napoleon move, he masterfully split his enemies into two and took them on separately, knocking Sardinia out of the war and putting the Austrians on the run. At the famous Battle of Lodi, he was in the fray, aiming the cannons himself, getting covered in mud, and earning the total respect of his men. They respected him so much that when he ordered an almost suicidal assault on the only bridge in town, his men threw themselves at it and took it despite fierce Austrian resistance. For Napoleon,
Just going to read this. I foresaw what I might be. Already I felt as earthly beneath me, as if I were being carried into the sky. Napoleon. If he was a poet, let me know in the comments. He sounds not like a bad poet.
was all he needed to confirm that he was the greatest human who had ever existed. Wow, Napoleon, you're pretty great at this military stuff. Just be careful your head doesn't get too big. What did you just say to me, you little prick? And as
Yeah, I remember when people told me not to have my head get too big with ideas. Guess what? I still have ideas. Honestly, my YouTube channels are still up and running. So guess what? They're still here, and I'm still here. Here. Yeah. I just realized that I'm now looking at myself inside of a mirror, by just looking away by my computer screen in order to see another mirror. It's confusing, I know, and I just realized that I just see myself in the mirror whenever I look away from the screen, and it's kind of terrifying me.
Napoleon swept through northern Italy. The Italians cheered his arrival. Yes, I'm here to liberate you from your cruel Austrian oppressors and replace them with French ones.
They're right. That does sound pretty bad.
Napoleon plundered as he went, sending riches back to France to help its economy, but also paying his men the first real money they'd seen in years. The Pope had been supporting the Austrians, so Napoleon briefly went to go give him a slap, and as he...
Wait, hold on. Did Napoleon actually hit the Pope in the face? Or was that oversimplified saying that Napoleon basically made sure that the Pope went out of the war? Someone tell me in the comments. I am actually interested to know if he actually did slap the Pope.
Began to approach Vienna. The exhausted Austrians were forced to make peace, with Napoleon overseeing negotiations himself. He had just single-handedly knocked Austria out of the war. And by the way, he was only 28. So
we know.
It's about time you moved out of your dad's attic. In the Italian...
I don't live in an attic. I literally live in my own house, oversimplified.
Territories he had conquered, Napoleon established new French sister republics, even writing constitutions and organizing governments himself. Not something a general generally does. When he got back to France, he was hailed as a hero, and the extremely unpopular government were concerned he might get some power-hungry ideas, so they agreed he should go far away from France to Egypt, where he could maybe undermine British access to India. Napoleon was eager to win more glory, so he brought with him a team of scholars, and he was like, whoa, it's a freaky man-cat. Whoa, it's a big stick.
Wait, hold on. Did he actually discover... Well, not discover, but cause most of the studying in ancient Egypt to happen? If so, tell me in the comments. I'm interested.
It's an ugly horse. Whoa, it's a stumpy little manlet. Hey, I'm actually average height for the time.
Well, I mean, he was actually considered tall for the time. He's actually average height now. Actually, if he lived in America, he would be actually an inch under average height. which an average height for an average American male, I believe, is 5.8 inches, I believe. No, 5.8 feet, not inches. I can only imagine that the not yet mature teenagers in my audience had just got a large kick out of my largest mess up I've probably done on this channel. If you got what I accidentally said, don't write it in the comments down below, and just let it pass. Please just let it pass. Do not remind me of it.
But then British Admiral Nelson came down and wrecked his fleet, and an Anglo-Ottoman force defeated him at Acre, so Napoleon abandoned his men and went back to France. His campaign in Egypt hadn't gone quite as planned, but one thing you should know about Napoleon was that he was a skilled propagandist. He published his own newspapers that sometimes exaggerated his...
Wait, hold on, let me see. Let me just read this real quick. Yep, that's pretty much copy and paste. About to offer, reputation journalist with 8 years of experience, definitely not Napoleon, wearing a fake mustache. To be fair, most people would buy that.
Achievements, and even commissioned paintings that generally made him look cool. So when he returned to Paris, he was yet again hailed as a hero, and he began to get some power-hungry ideas. First, however, he had a bit of a problem to deal with. See, he had learned something shocking about his dear wife. Really, Josephine? This guy? I'm just as tall as him. I'm sorry, I swear. Now that you're becoming famous, I'll never do it again. Make sure you don't. I've never stooped so low as to cheat on you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be in this room consulting my generals for the next 30 minutes. And by consulting, I mean boinking. By my generals, I mean this woman. And by 30 minutes, I mean 2 seconds.
Wait, what? You're telling me that Napoleon boinked a woman in 2 seconds? I mean, he is known to be the general speed in all of Europe. Wow. Napoleon, you are definitely the master of speed. You must not even last that long, dude.
Having dealt with his wife, Napoleon was then approached by a very influential politician who said he had an idea. He wanted to stage a coup against the deeply unpopular government and needed the extremely popular Napoleon's help. And Napoleon thought that was just the darn tootinest idea. The plan was to trap the government and convince them to voluntarily give up their power. And here's how they did it. Hey guys, oh my gosh, quick! There's a dangerous Jacobin plot to overthrow you, which we definitely aren't just making up. Better get inside this cage so we can protect you. Okay.
How dumb are people?
Gentlemen, we got him. In this case, the cage was an isolated palace outside of Paris, with no one around but Napoleon and his army. With the government inside, Napoleon then entered, and a pretty chaotic event ensued, during which the government didn't seem entirely sure what was going on, Napoleon's men didn't seem entirely sure what was going on, and Napoleon himself didn't seem entirely sure what was going on. But thankfully, Napoleon's brother Lucien, president of the lower house, managed to regain control, and the remaining councilmen were intimidated into creating a new constitution. And thus, a new government was formed, this time with 3 consuls in charge. But after Napoleon did some rewriting, in the end, there was really only one man in charge, the first consul, him. And over the next few years, he worked to consolidate even more power, and essentially became a dictator in total control of France.
That I actually did not know on how he rose to power that fast. That I did not know.
By the way, he was only 30, so maybe...
Wait, hold on, he was only 30 when he rose to power? How old was Stalin when he rose to power? Wait, are those ticks? What are those bed sheets? Why are there ticks or bed bugs or jelly donuts? Pizza, hot pockets? And that's scary.
About time you washed your disgusting bed sheets.
I wash them every day for your information.
Is now ruled by possibly the greatest military leader of the time. Possibly the greatest? Or definitely? Well, now is his chance to prove it. See, Back when Napoleon was still in Egypt, being Indiana Jones. Back home, France was in France, being France. They had conquered even more territory, and they were like, hey Piedmont, you get revolutionary ideals. Hey Switzerland, you get revolutionary ideals. And Rome, you get revolutionary ideals. Everybody gets revolutionary. Oh, hey guys, nice sledgehammers. And Naples, very cool nail gun.
I have a feeling they're about to beat the crap out of France. Oh wait, why do I have the feeling of that? Oh yeah, because they're about to.
Here to get some revolutionary ideas. As France was still spreading the revolution, and with Napoleon busy in Egypt, the European powers felt the time was right for round two, and the war of the Second Coalition began. And this time, their big bad boy buddy Russia was here to bang some French boys back to Bordeaux. And bang them, they did. France got blasted. But then Russia pulled out after stalling in Switzerland, and now that Napoleon was in charge of the country, he was ready to start blasting right back. He took command of the Army of the Reserve, and he brought the fight to the Austrians. Now, there are many traits that made Napoleon a great military leader. I already mentioned one of them, how he was one of the boys and commanded the total loyalty of his men. But now we see a second reason, the element of surprise. In 1800, Napoleon moved to Geneva, and it looked like he was probably going to take on the Austrian forces in Germany. There's no way he'd be crazy enough to move his entire army south through the Alps as a surprise attack on the Austrians besieging Genoa. Oh, Napoleon's moving his entire army south through the Alps as a surprise attack on the Austrians besieging Genoa. Napoleon's crossing of the Alps is legendary, and you may have seen...
I actually knew just that he actually rode like a depressed mule or something while actually doing this portrait or something, or crossing the Alps. It's not as cool as Hannibal literally using war elephants to cross the Alps, but to be fair, it's Napoleon on literally either a horse or a donkey or a mule.
One of the most famous paintings of the general, popping a sick wheelie on his majestic stallion surrounded by dangerous mountain terrain. Of course, in real life, he made the crossing on a depressed mule. But that's not as cool. When he emerged in Italy, the Austrians expected him to come break their siege, but Napoleon went for their supply line near Milan.
That's a smart decision.
The Austrians to meet Napoleon head-on at the famous Battle of Marengo. The Austrians initially clobbered the outnumbered French, and they were like, hooray, we won. But then a few hours later, Napoleon showed up again with an even bigger army, and he clobbered them right back. Holy cow, this tiny little fun-sized French guy is running rings around us. Hey, I'm average height for the time, you jerk! Then, after General Moreau's...
Sorry, that always hilarious. That always makes it funnier for me.
At Hohenlinden, Vienna was exposed, and the Austrians again sued for peace. Just like the War of the First Coalition, the Second Coalition ended in another French victory. But in only the UK remained at war with Napoleon, and they were using their powerful navy to blockade French ports and were even seizing the cargoes of neutral ships. Obviously, everyone else got pretty pissed off that the British were interfering with their trade, so in response, they formed a league, and they embargoed the UK right back. Neutral countries protecting their own interests? That's offensive. So Britain went to Copenhagen and blew a bunch of stuff up, and the league...
Why did they go to Denmark's capital to blow stuff up? What did Denmark do? I get that Denmark is controlling Norway, but let's face it, Denmark only did that because, let's face it, you took out their trade, Britain. So yeah, that's kind of more or less on you.
Disbanded. But because the UK's economy was pretty bust, they decided to sign a treaty with France in 1802. For the first time in a long time, Europe was at peace. Congratulations, sire. You've achieved peace. Yes, Pierre, but not for long. I still don't trust those dirty Brits. Did you hear they've been calling me the bony man? What is it?
They actually wrote a ton of propaganda, dude, about you. They made you literally short. No joke, British propaganda is what makes majority of people nowadays to make you believe that you are 5'2", instead of being 5'7". Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the bad downside of the British fighting you, dude. You gotta remember being the short guy.
Even mean. Keep an eye on them, would you? I can't, sire. Why not? Because they use Nord...
Speaking of which, I need to get rid of his ads. Sorry, OverSimplified, I don't want to be blamed for your ads. Anyways, let's back up a tiny bit, and let's go.
So thank you. Now where were we? Oh yeah. Crossing the Alps, defeating the Austrians, and Europe at peace. What a meteoric rise it had been for the young Corsican. He had just taken charge of a nation that appeared to be losing a war and turned it all around, securing French gains in Europe. But there was now a big question. You see, throughout the chaotic French Revolution, French governments had struggled to keep the economy afloat. They often didn't have a whole lot of support, and they frequently came and went. Would Napoleon finally be the man who could stick around? Military victories were one thing, but could the general also govern?
Surprisingly, yeah, Napoleon could govern. That I actually knew. I knew actually some parts of his government styles. Actually, I used to study him when I was way younger, but then all of it I've forgotten a good portion of it. Maybe even all of it. It's been forever since I studied him. Or even do that much. Is all I knew was I basically had to write like sort of like a small biography for him. So I wasn't able to go into extreme details or stuff. I just had to write just basically on what he'd done. Wrote a quick section about Napoleonic Wars on how he won, as how he was winning everything. He invaded Russia, then that failed, and he essentially got sent to an island. He came back, and then he got sent to another island. And then he died there. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote, but a little bit more expansive during that time, though. Which, let's face it, what year was that in? Wow, I don't even remember the year I did my report. I have an excellent memory I have an excellent long-term memory. I have a horrible short-term memory.
Spoiler alert. Yes. The economy's crumbling? Well, then why don't you have yourself a new national bank, currency reform, and improved taxation and welfare systems? The legal system is an incoherent mess? Well, then why don't we nicely wrap all those civil laws up into one new centralized legal code? Corrupt government officials? Throw them in the trash. Bad infrastructure? Throw it in the trash. Women's rights? Throw them in the trash. Wait, really? Well, yeah, unfortunately, while Napoleon was building on the equality of the revolution, he also largely scaled back rights for certain groups, and husbands had full legal control over their wives. But come on, ladies, maybe let men have a slice of the pie for once. Napoleon.
I'm not sure if I should literally make an agreement with that or a disagreement with that, considering that I can go with either option. And quite honestly, I don't want to be yelled at anymore. But anyways, this is actually they're about to explain my favorite reform Napoleon did. Go for it, dude.
Further reformed education, ensuring a system based on individual ability, meaning now Simeon had to compete with everyone else, and Napoleon could get the cream of the crop to help him run the republic. But he wasn't just building on the ideas of the revolution. The revolution had led to a lot of chaos, and Napoleon needed stability. So he rolled back a couple things, most notably with religion. The revolution had pretty much kicked the Catholic Church to the curb, but Napoleon understood that since many French citizens still considered themselves Catholic, that could be a problem. So he came to an agreement with the Pope and brought back the Church, only this time with some pretty hefty power limitations. He also ensured freedom for other religions, and is often noted for his positive treatment of Jewish people at a time of widespread anti-Semitism.
That I actually did know as well. Well, I just wasn't sure if he was going to bring it up or not. But yeah, in Napoleon, for a dude who literally he's got literally balls larger than Winston Churchill. Pretty much, yeah. He basically, yeah. I can literally, yeah. Treating the Jews correctly during a time of anti-Semitism was widespread throughout Europe. Automatically respect from me. But granted, he already had the respect from me when he tried invading Russia, and then immediately failing. But granted, he did do one thing. One thing that managed to impress me long enough that he gained my respect.
But while all of this may make Napoleon sound like a pretty stand-up dude, it's good to note that he believed in religious freedom because he thought it was a powerful tool to keep the poor from eating the rich. Or something like.
Wait, let me see this. Religion keeps the rich from being massacred by the poor. Napoleon. He ain't wrong.
Overall, Napoleon's aim was to end the chaos of the revolution and finally create a stable and prospering French republic. And in that aim, he seemed to be largely successful and generally popular with the people of France. He officially declared that the revolution is over, adding, "I am the revolution." Napoleon's head could be seen for miles. Of course, not everyone was happy with Napoleon's reforms. Conservatives felt he was too radical. Radicals felt he was too conservative. But
How do you get both sides to hate you? Well, I mean, if you're a radical and people see you as conservative, and if you're conservative and you see him as radical, that's kind of hilarious.
Napoleon was a dictator. Opposition could usually be stamped out with some good old-fashioned iron fisting. In 1804, Napoleon took one last major step. After some failed attempts were made to assassinate him, he wanted to strengthen his position and ensure his dynasty could live on after him. And so he decided being first consul for life simply wasn't quite enough. He decided he should become emperor. He held a vote, asking the French people if they were cool with the idea, and they returned a definitely not rigged 99.9% in favor.
It was partly rigged, wasn't it?
On this man. And so on the 2nd of December, 1804, in an elaborate ceremony at Notre Dame, Napoleon was made emperor. The Pope was even invited to attend, and normally he would crown an emperor, but to make sure everyone knew this wasn't some Charlemagne-style circular power division, Napoleon lifted the crown and placed it on his own head. Like I said, the ball's on this man.
That is true. Napoleon had some large balls, but unfortunately, well, Russia kind of ruined it, and the Austrians kind of ruined it as well. And then the British dude Wellington also ruined it.
He was now Emperor of the French. Well, Napoleon, you were a general, then you became first consul for life, and now you're an emperor. Is it enough yet? Is your ambition finally satisfied? I don't know, Pierre. What comes after emperor? I would say God, sire. You want to be a god? Yes. I'll put it down under maybe. Okay.
That actually sounds quite normal. Hey guys, let's see. Tsar Alexander I? Don't know, don't know, don't know, and don't know. I only know because let's face it, I remember the dude's son. The second Tsar Alexander II, I believe, wasn't he killed by having a mild case of being blown up by a terrorist? Pretty sure he was. Is that? No, yeah, he did. Anyways, continue.
What the hell is going on? This Corsican guy showed up out of nowhere, and he's kicking our ass. He's exporting the ideas of the French Revolution wherever he goes, and he just declared himself King of Italy and Emperor. He can't do that. I'm the Emperor. Oh, hey, fellow monarchs. I see you're having a monarch party. My invite must have got lost in the mail. I'll just set up a spot right here. Wow. You don't belong here, Napoleon. We're coming to take you down. I'd like to see you try. Oh, I'm so scared I just pooed my pants.
Austria, you're about to get the crap beaten out of you. Considering that not once, but twice he just made you surrender. So yeah. Yeah. Keep on going, Napoleon. Keep on scaring them.
Everyone, I just pooed my pants.
Wait, hold on. Wasn't this guy a complete moron? Oh yeah, he was.
No, but I did just poo my pants. Before Napoleon had even declared himself emperor, the British had already redeclared war on France because both sides had been violating their previous treaty. Napoleon immediately occupied Hanover and then began making plans for a great British invasion, partially paid for by selling a huge chunk of land to the United States.
Oh, so that's why he sold Louisiana to us. I knew he needed... Oh no, actually he sold it because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to protect it, since the Spanish before previously given France the Louisiana area, and then Napoleon gave it to us, considering that he didn't want it to fall into the hands of the British. And quite honestly, he also needed to have some money to sponsor his war. Go on, guys.
Napoleon gathered his army along the English Channel. But here was the problem. While Napoleon's powerful army would almost certainly obliterate the British on land, there was very little chance he'd actually make it across the Channel, because Britannia ruled the waves.
He's not lying. Britain did rule the waves, and quite honestly, it's scary. The British Navy, throughout most of history, up until recently, where it's the U.S. Navy where it's now the scariest part. But to be fair, any time from from any historical part, from basically the beginning of colonization of 14 in the early 15th century, and not until literally the mid 1950s where the U.S. Navy came into larger power than the British Navy. But still, it's quite scary.
This power dynamic would keep the two traditional enemies from engaging.
Wait, mistress of the sea, master of the continent. Oh. Well, I mean, Britain and France always had that love-hate relationship throughout history until rather recently, World War One, where they actually had like a kind of friendish relationship, but it actually became more fixed over in rather recent years.
In much real direct combat throughout the Napoleonic Wars. However, the British had something else up their sleeve: copious amounts of money. They were willing to throw cash at anyone who would go to war against Napoleon, and there were plenty of takers: Austria, Russia, Naples, and Sweden. Hoping to put Napoleon's France back in its place, formed the Third Coalition against France. The coalition forces probably thought that this time they stood a chance. They weren't prepared for the total humiliation they were about to suffer. The War of the Third Coalition was Napoleon at his best. We've already learned two ways in which Napoleon was a great military commander, but here comes one of the biggest reasons: speed. He had reorganized his army into corps, which were themselves, basically, small armies. Each had their own infantry, cavalry, and artillery, and as a result, was able to act more independently. They spread out through the countryside, and by living off the land rather than relying on heavy supply trains, they were able to move extremely quickly. Napoleon would traverse massive distances, outmaneuver his enemies, isolate them, and then move in for the kill before they even knew what was going on. Lightning warfare leading to total destruction.
Let's see, core system, decisive action with offhand, divide enemy armies, destroy enemy quick decisive battle. As we're about to see, this major thing here will lead to Napoleon's downfall.
Would you like to see him do it? Here we go. Part of the coalition's plan was for the Russians to meet up with the Austrians and take on Napoleon together. Combined, they could turn the tide against him, so Napoleon needed to stop them from ever meeting. But he's all the way over in Boulogne. No problem. In a matter of weeks, Napoleon marched 200,000 men, in secret, encircling Austrian General Mack and capturing his entire army.
16th through 19th on October 1805. How many soldiers did he capture?
Devastating blow.
50,000 Austrians captured. Jeez. I forgot how much Napoleon was able to do.
Napoleon later remarked, "I have destroyed the Austrian army by simply marching."
I believe that is an actual real quote. Napoleon, why do you have your hand up in your chest sleeve thing? I never understood that about you, nor would I ever will.
Next, he turned to face the approaching Russians. Okay, it looks like the French are coming for us, but check this out. I've got an amazing idea. When they approach, we run away. Sir, you're a genius.
He's not making a joke there. Literally, if you run... Literally, the main tactic on defeating Napoleon is literally running away from him. The Russians learned from this rather quickly, and actually you managed to use that to pretty much destroy the first French Empire rather quickly with it.
Began to retreat with Napoleon giving chase, and since his tactics relied on quick victories, this could be a problem, especially because the longer the war went on, the more likely it looked other countries may join the coalition against him. But Napoleon knew the Russian Tsar, Alexander I, was young and seeking glory, so he came up with an idea to lure him in. He sent him a message. What does it say? It says, "Hello, I'm just a little baby boy, and I'm very scared." Are you talking like that, or is he? He is, sir. Why is he doing that? I don't know, but it's very cute, helpless, and vulnerable. A little baby boy, eh? Very scared, eh? Cute, eh? Boris, get my crossbow.
Wait. Was that an offensive joke to Canadians? Was that a bravo, but considering I am a Canadian as well, Canadian by blood, as I've not yet been to Canada. That's still on my to-do list, but let's face it, I'm still stuck in a pandemic in the US, so can't exactly go to Canada at the current moment, but I do plan moving there in rather maybe another decade or so.
We're going hunting. The Allied forces turned to face Napoleon, who they now believed was in a vulnerable position. He was set up at Austerlitz, and to make it look like he was retreating, he had even evacuated the high ground. A thick fog set in, obscuring Napoleon's center, as the Allies took the bait and set up on the heights. From there, they spotted Napoleon's very weak-looking right flank.
So Napoleon, is now got it. Now I remember the strategy. Since he learned this from Frederick the Great, and quite honestly, stupid as hell. Since Frederick the Great weakened one of his flanks in order to strengthen another part, pretty much Napoleon took it, but to the other extremes. Which, let's let the battle play out and show you what's about to happen.
Ascended the heights to go get it. Little did they know, it was exactly what Napoleon was hoping they'd do. The next thing they knew, a large French force was emerging from the fog, launching a huge central assault up the hill. They swung around, crushing the Allies, and as men attempted to flee across the frozen lakes, Napoleon ordered his artillery to fire on the ice, causing an unknown number to drown. But he told me he was just a little baby boy. What happened? He tricked you, sir. You mean I was the little baby boy all along?
Yes.
It was Napoleon's masterpiece, and Austria were once again forced to make peace with France. Then, with the French conquest of Naples in 1806, the War of the Third Coalition ended as yet another Napoleon victory. This was the third time Napoleon had to give Austrian Emperor Francis a good spanking. And so, with the peace treaty in 1805, Napoleon was determined to punish him. He was forced to give up territory, hand over significant compensation, and promised never to fight Napoleon again. For now, Russia, Sweden, and the UK remained at war with France, but none were able to offer much of a threat. And so, Napoleon got to work strengthening his grip over Europe. He gave out rule of captured territories to his family and friends, and most notably, he established a new confederation in Germany, with himself as its protector. Seeing his influence in Germany being wiped away, Emperor Francis acknowledged reality and officially dissolved the Holy Roman Empire.
Which I do want to say the Holy Roman Empire was never a German Reich, but considering for majority of the time Germany did control it, though I do need to say that the Holy Roman Empire, yeah, it wasn't a German Reich.
An entity that had existed for over 1,000 years. But it wasn't all good news for Napoleon. For one thing, Spain had earlier allied with France in 1804 because the British just couldn't help themselves from blowing up Spanish ships, and Napoleon hoped a combined French-Spanish fleet would eventually...
Wait, hold on. It says this way, not yet, wrong way. True? True? Not true.
...able to invade England. Unfortunately, he received word that British Admiral Nelson had engaged his fleet at Trafalgar. Normally, naval battles looked like this, but in this case, Nelson did this. Was it because he was an idiot? No, it's because he was a genius. He successfully punched through the Franco-Spanish line and unleashed hell. His victory ensured British control of the sea, and his death during the battle made him a legend. Napoleon's hopes for a future British invasion were gone.
No. Please excuse me as I need to go.
But not just that. Napoleon was also hoping to secure peace on the continent, but that wasn't looking likely because the Prussian king was under pressure from his wife. Frederick? He's established a confederation in our turf, and he told us he'd give us Hanover, but then offered it to the British. You have to declare war on him. What is it with you and war? What is it with you and being a cupcake? Go to war! Okay. In October 1806, Prussia, with its famed military tradition, joined the coalition and declared war, beginning the War of the Fourth Coalition. Unfortunately, Prussian King Frederick...
He's not the sharpest tools I can see in the shed. There's a saw, wrench, hammer. Not going to say that due to the fact that that can be misinterpreted for something else, but yes, he was indeed a dumbass.
William III wasn't the smartest tool in the shed. Look at him over there, being all French. Makes me sick. Boys, we'll get him this time. But here's the thing. This time, we have to stick together. Do not under any circumstances face Napoleon by yourself. You all saw what happened to Austria. Hey, where'd Fred go? Hey, you jerk. Think you're some kind of big shot? Huh? Want to tangle with Fred? You don't got the cojones. We're screwed. Without consulting its allies, Prussia had gone ahead and sent Napoleon an ultimatum.
Yeah, they were, they were kind of screwed.
He moved all his forces out of Germany. Now, some of you watching this video probably can't even wipe your own bum yet, but even you know, you don't just send Napoleon an ultimatum. Obviously, Napoleon went in for the kill. Prussia's army was quite outdated, so when they met Napoleon at the twin battles of Jena and Auerstedt, it wasn't even close. Even Marshal Davout's heavily outnumbered corps at Auerstedt sent the Prussians running, and Napoleon carried out a ruthless pursuit of his fleeing enemy, taking Berlin and within a single month decimating the Prussian forces. Frederick William and the remnants of his army moved to the east. At this point, Napoleon's forces were pretty tired. Winter had come, and conditions were miserable. He anticipated both sides would settle into winter quarters, but Russia decided to try their hand at an unexpected winter attack. A series of brutal battles followed that took a heavy toll on both sides, including the vicious Battle of Eylau, fought in blizzard conditions. Men froze to death, and many deserted. The Russian artillery tore the French to shreds, and Napoleon himself was momentarily under risk of being captured. In the end, the French army was saved thanks to a legendary cavalry charge by Napoleon's flamboyant cavalry commander, Murat. After the horror inflicted on both sides, they decided it might be a good idea not to do any more fighting until after winter. Then, after winter came, and the fighting continued. The Russians were pushed back to Friedland, where Russian General Bennigsen made a bit of a blunder by positioning himself with the Eylau River to his back.
Yeah, that's kind of a bad mood, dude.
The French artillery were able to pin the Russians between the river and their concentrated gunfire, a major element in Napoleon's fighting style. Many Russians drowned as they tried to escape. War of the Fourth Coalition. Victory, Napoleon.
Anyways, as you guys would know, on Friday you guys would get the next video of the Napoleonic Wars Part 2, but for now, join the KK Nation, make sure to subscribe to OverSimplified. Oh, why didn't I actually like this video? I thought I did, silling me. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, make sure to like OverSimplified's video, watch it, subscribe to him, and sorry, ate something earlier, now it's just coming back up to me as either being something that I need to throw up, or I need to burp out. If you excuse me for a moment, I just need to finish this up before I probably throw up. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.